and she has her friends with her. Wendy Grand is up there with her, and they're having a great time sewing. And you'll hear more about that when she gets back on Monday. And apparently there's going to be some stories about taco trucks. I don't know too much about it, but it sounds like she's had a great time with taco trucks up there in Chico, California. So today I'm going to answer a few more questions. I'm going to show you a few more quilts. We're going to learn a little bit about some of the questions people had about me, and we're going to have some fun. So I see people starting to get on. Good morning. Glad to have you here. So I do have some work I have to do this weekend. The question is, when is Alex actually coming home? Well, I'll tell you, it's probably when I get all of the fabric back in behind those doors in the closets. Almost all the flooring, actually all the flooring is done now. They have finished it up to the walls, and we're going to have to move furniture back in. We're going to have to move all of the fabrics back in. It's quite a bit of work, and we'll just consider it a really good workout. Okay, let me first address one question somebody had. They said, okay, tell us about the piano. Well, the piano is mine. It has been a bucket list item for me my entire life. I've wanted to play piano. I have absolutely no innate talent for it whatsoever. And so you can see I have earphones down here just underneath the piano. Alex has actually never heard me play piano, and that's one of the reasons we're still married. Where am I at in the piano? Well, I will tell you that I have found that 15 minutes of practice a year does not advance your piano career very far. And that's pretty much what has happened through most of my life. I took one semester of piano in college, but I didn't continue. I did, want to, but I didn't continue. So a number of years ago, I bought a Costco keyboard, those 61 key keyboards, and started trying to play again. And I had fun. I did it. I can read a little bit of music. I can't read and play, but I can read what the notes are. And so I got the 61 key thing, and I'm playing around with it. And I thought, someday I'm going to have to get all 88 keys because, people like Leon Russell love those low notes, and they don't even have the low notes on a 61 key keyboard. So I just couldn't justify it at 15 minutes a year of doing it. And Alex came in one day and she said to me, I'm going to take myself and my daughter to a Lady Gaga concert. And I said, well, that's great. That's wonderful. What does a Lady Gaga concert cost? And she told me what it cost, and the next day I bought the piano. For those of you who know anything about piano, I'm probably a 1-year level person at this point. I don't usually play classical music because classical music takes 10 years to be bad. But the level I'm at right now would be Fur-Elise. I'm now about 80% of the way through Fur-Elise. If you're more popular song person, I am 80% of the way through Bridge Over Troubled Water. So that's where I'm at on the piano. So the other thing I wanted to do today is to show you a few more things on the site itself. There's some questions people had, there's some star member things, and then I want to show you a little bit about the gallery. So let's get over and show you the screen. One thing we have on the site is star members, of course, can see all the shows, but we also have a special area in Learn. And if you go down here, it's called Expert Seminars. And what those are DVDs. People really don't make all that many DVDs anymore. So we went out and got some of the DVDs and we streamed those to you as part of your star membership. It's free to star members. So the latest one we have is this 30 Tips and Tricks for Better Machine Quilting with Cindy Seitz Krug. Absolutely wonderful. It's into 2 to 5 to 10 minute little segments. So it's real easy to take it piece by piece. We have Libby Lemon's Thread Play. We have a really good one. This is the only short one. Most of them are an hour and a half to 2 hours long. This one's only 35 minutes, and it's Beginning Stippling with Sharon Schomburg. And she does a great job. In 35 minutes, you're going to get 5 or 6 of her standard stipples that you can learn. It's a great, fast learning. Claudia Feil has her fillers. This is worth the price of the membership by itself on that one. Ricky's Grand Finale tells you how to finish a quilt, and it has trapunto and bobbin quilting and designs and edges and mitered bindings and all those kind of things to help you finish your quilt off. Sally Collins is one of Alex's favorite teachers of all time, and we have her Precision Piecing DVD, and that will stream to you. If you're a beginning quilter, we have Alex's teaches you to start quilting. And then we have a fun film, Stitched, which is about people trying to get into the Houston Quilt Show. Carol Breyer Fowler, Randall Cook, and Hollis Chatelaine. A fun film, and it's there for you as a star member. But the other thing I wanted to show you today was a little more about sea quilts. The quilt gallery is huge. It has over 22,000 quilts in it right now. And the question is, how do you get to see those quilts and what can you do? So one of the questions a person had, well, it really wasn't a question. It was somebody wrote in and said, hey, I love this feature. So let me show you what this feature is. Here's a quilt by Sandra Mullen. It's just gorgeous. She's our current show, so you do need to go watch that show. She's just fantastic. She shows you how to get different colors, etc. Again, I want to tell you that much of the site is built using tabs. So do get used to the fact that there's so much information that we have to put it in different areas for you so you don't have to scroll forever. So you do have the quilt images here, and you do have about the quilt. And people tell you about the quilt, and when you put your quilt in, which I do recommend you do, go up here as a star member, you can submit your quilt. We do ask for a lot of information. What techniques did you use? What about the quilt? What's the block you used? And all that information makes it so that people can find things about your quilt. And I'll show you that in a second in the search, because you'll notice we don't have any search here on the left-hand side. So let me go back to the image and show you one of the fun things. Now again, these are thumbnails, they're not the quilts. So be sure to click on the quilt and get to see it bigger. And then you can slide your carousel through the different pictures and then get out of it by hitting this X, okay? But one of the things that you're allowed to do is I have to log in. So let me log in. We have to make you log in because there's been so much, hacking and problems with people just getting on the site and doing pharmacy ads and things like that. So we do make people have to sign in to use the forum and things like that. All right, so you're on this quilt and you say, I love it, but I want to be able to find it again. We have a thing here called Add to Favorites. If you click that, it sets it up in your favorites. And then if you go up and click My Favorites, it'll keep the quilts that you have put into your favorites. So here is the one we just did. So that's a wonderful way for you to go through and find quilts that you love and then say, how am I going to find that again? There's 22,000 quilts in that gallery. Well, you do it by throwing it into your My Favorites. Now, the other way to find quilts on the site is to use this search up here. That search is really an excellent way of finding anything on the site. So if you want to find things, here's an example. Like if you say, well, I want to see log cabin quilts. You'll see again, we're using the tab system. So if you wanted to watch a show on log cabin quilts, you'd go to watch and see the different things we have on log cabin quilts. Or we even have some classes on log cabin quilts. But in See Quilts, in the gallery, you'll see these different log cabin quilts. And you'll see ones that inspire you to make it in a certain way. You know, you may like a standard log cabin quilt, but then there will be quilts you'll say, wait a second, is this really a log cabin quilt? And then you can go see that by clicking on it. And then you, of course, can blow it up and see it larger and try to get closer to it. And if you said, gosh, I want to see that again, we'll just add it to our favorites. And now if I went into my favorites, we'll see that the Twisted Log Cabin hasn't quite set up yet, but it will be in there and it'll be within your favorites. You can have a lot of different things you can put in here. If you want to see people who have done some Judy Niemeyer quilts, well, there they are, and you can see what other people have done with Judy Niemeyer quilts. So that's the how to use the See Quilts. Please use the search to find things you want. You could put 9-patch here. You could say trapunto. And here are trapunto quilts. Here's one that was done in Diane Gaudinsky's class. Beautiful quilt. So that's how to use the See Quilts. Let me get back to... Okay, so please put your quilts up there. It is going to ask you a lot of questions, and that's so people can use that search and find the different quilts that they want to see. It's a great way of getting the inspiration. Right below the quilts, it'll say similar quilts, and that'll give you an idea if you're trying to look for a style of quilt or a quilt with certain techniques, then you'll be able to do that. Another thing I will tell you about search, searches aren't perfect. I had a person write me and say, I really want to find that one class that Alex did, and that class was about off-white or beige. And I thought, off-white or beige? Well, what she was looking for was neutrals. She was actually looking for Alex's clash on stash building. And we didn't, you know, it's tough. You got to find the right word sometimes to get to the right place. And here it is, neutral fabrics. That's the class that she was looking for, but she was using the word beige and off-white instead of neutral. So that is one of the problems with trying to use search, is you do have to find the right word to make it work. Okay, another question that someone had, and let me get over here, is they had the question of, what quilt does Alex have on her bed? This quilt. And this quilt has a little bit of a story. It was made by her good friend Deb Silva. And they were having quilt-alongs at Alex's house. And Alex saw her doing this pattern. And Alex is one of those patterns that Alex wished that she had invented. And so she told Deb Silva how much she loved the quilt. And then one day, Deb gave it to her. Well, that made Alex feel bad. She felt like Deb gave it to her because she kept praising it and kind of talked her out of her quilt. But it turns out that Deb had been doing it for Alex all along. So this quilt has a lot of meaning to us, and we love that quilt. Okay. Another quilt that I love of hers is this quilt. It's the Red Shoes quilt. This quilt was, one day Alex came home from Asilomar and said, I'm through teaching at Asilomar. And I said, what, are you not going to go anymore? And she goes, no, I'm going to go, but I'm going to go as a student. I want to go there and learn. And so she went and took a class from Susan Carlson. And Susan just takes all these little tiny bits of fabric and you make pictures out of them and you put tulle over them and sew the heck out of them to get it back down. And Alex had a picture of her first tennis shoes. And so she used the Susan Carlson approach to making that quilt. It's not a big quilt. It's probably less than 3 feet by 3 feet. But it's just still one of my favorites. I love how she did the mosaic feel and look of it. Another quilt I like is this Grape Escape. Part of the reason I like Grape Escape is because she had to do 600 circles on it. And that took some time and patience. And time and patience are not two things Alex has a lot of. But it also was, she had just bought a new camera and she wanted to figure out how to do, shots to make it look good and, use it for the patterns and things like that. And so she ended up running around Livermore, and Livermore is a wine area. It has 51 wineries in it. We have figured that rich people now don't buy cocaine, they buy wineries. And so she ran around to the wineries and they let her put the quilt up and take pictures. And I still remember her getting up early in the morning and running out. And that is not Alex whatsoever. Okay. Okay. A story. Someone asked us a story for Simply Quilts. So one of the things that happened on Simply Quilts, as many of you know, Alex was on HGTV for 10 years. And it was on a show called Simply Quilts. And one of the problems with Simply Quilts was that you never knew year from year if it was going to repeat. She'd do it and she would only find out several weeks ahead of time that they were going to do it again. And so she started off, they started her off on Simply Quilts. All they did was they said they wanted a quilter, not just a personality. So they got her there and they tied her hands down and they gave her an hour of training. And that was how she started on Simply Quilts. And so she did the first year and second year. And she said, well, if this is going to keep going on, I need to know more of what I'm doing. And she didn't get a lot of money for doing this. This was the first of those types of shows way back then. She even went around and campaigned to get HGTV on different cable channels. And so it was very new and it wasn't a lot of money, but she just said, I've got to know how to do this better if I'm going to be doing this. Because I used to ask her when she got back, I said, hey, what did you learn this year? And she'd say, well, I didn't learn that much because most of the time I'm watching a producer and that producer's going, make it go faster or cut it off or it's something to do with timing. And so she's worried about that and just hoping that this person is staying right on the subject. And so she said, I need to learn how to do it. So one year, about the second or third year, she came back and took all the money she made and hired the local TV station. You know, they have local TV stations in a lot of towns. And so she went to the local TV station and she rented the entire station. She hired a producer, she hired a camera person, she hired an assistant, and they were all there. And they spent a day showing her which way to look, how to take the signals, how to respond. and just to be able to handle the situations better. And I was really proud of her for doing that, because I'm an accountant. I'd have kept the money. I wouldn't have spent it. But she really wanted to do it well. And so I was really proud of her for taking the time and doing that. Okay, some people have asked, and I've waited this long to kind of show it, is they say that they go to our site to watch these lives, but they can't chat. And that's right. You can only chat if you are directly on Facebook or directly on YouTube. So if you've gone to our site, let me go back to the site. If you've gone to the site, now it's hard. Where is John? John is in, we have put me in interviews. So I'll show you how to find that. So it pops out and we say, okay, where's John today? Well, you can go over here and get it off this what's new. And they've put me into interviews now. And if you go there and say, okay, I want to see the live, you go here. And if I played this, it would play now. And it's actually about 20 seconds behind what I'm actually doing. But see where it says watch on YouTube? If you click that, you will actually go over to YouTube and you will be able to then join in on the chats. So that's how you do it. And because if you start it here, I'm going to shut up for a second and start it. Oh. And if you go there and say, okay, I want to see the live, you go here. And if I played this, it would play now. Oh, is mine. Okay. Okay, so that's how you get in to do the chats, is you do have to be directly on Facebook or directly on YouTube. And so if you're on our site, click go to YouTube and you'll be able to join in on the chatting. Okay, best gift that I ever got Alex. Okay, so the best gift I ever got Alex was, I had promised Alex that as we got older that I would take over cooking. And cooking is, well, how do you learn it? How do you suddenly say, okay, I'm a cook. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take over. And I thought, well, do I go take classes? What do I do? And because of things that have happened recently, what I did was, let me get you over here. I joined HelloFresh. And this is like Blue Apron and a lot of those other places where they send you a sack filled with all the ingredients. And then they send you this thing, which on the back has the recipe for how to put this dinner together. Now, I'm going to tell you that for us, this worked out really well. It costs about $10 a person for each meal. And that can be a little pricey, but what we were doing is going out to eat, twice a week or bringing food in, etc. And that gets real expensive fast. The other thing is that because you're getting the exact things you need to buy, you aren't wasting any food. And we generally get a meal for each of us and then maybe a lunch for me the next day. So it works out to be a pretty good thing. I will tell you that the meals are B+ to A- most of the time. They're actually pretty good. So for us, it worked out really well. And during the pandemic, it worked out extremely well because the food was delivered to our doorway. So that, and at first, Alex didn't trust me. I mean, she got up and she started doing the cooking right beside me to make sure that I wasn't going to poison her. But she has over time learned to accept that I can probably get through most of the recipe. I occasionally throw in my own ingredients. I instead of always using water to put things in, I use dark beer. I have some. We always try to get things a little spicier, so they're spices that we put in to get it just a little spicier. But that turned out to be the best gift that I had ever gotten her. And she has learned to adjust to it. She now sits on the couch and watches the Durrells of Corfu while I'm going through it. I will tell you too, though, you do end up using a fair number of pans, so there is some cleanup for us. For two people, it works very, very, very well. So anyway, I hope you had a good time today. Alex will be back on Monday with stories about what she has been doing and what she's made, and more about, we're trying to put stories together about what has happened on the remodel, and we'll probably have a big thing on that. She'll keep you going. I do want to encourage you to, hey, stay a member. If a lot of people are coming due now, please go over and renew your membership. We have a lot of fun things coming on this year. We really want fun to be part of it. I mean, the pandemic obviously took the fun out of everything. And we know from dealing with you people that being creative is part of your fun. And so we have Alex's Spinning Spools going now. We have Dee coming up with a beautiful red quilt that is going to be coming, My Flower Garden. Ricky is going to join in. This summer, he's going to have a special kaleidoscope challenge for you. And then Alex will come back with paper piecing, teaching you that. That's something she never wanted to learn, but had to, and is glad she did, and she wants you to learn it too. So we have a lot going on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So renew your membership, join us, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Hey, thanks for letting me take some